live on YouTube.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good evening and welcome to the special meeting of the West Sonoma County Union High School District. First item on our agenda is our call to order, and I will do that now, and roll call, Karen will take care of that. She gets to see all our beautiful faces here. And next we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. As usual, look to your right, place your hand over your heart, and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You know who's not here, Jenny, and that's Mariana.
Oh.
You're right. I don't see her. She might have been confused and thought we were starting at 6 o'clock. So let me see if I can get a hold of her.
Okay.
I did get a confirmation that she was available. So
we're gonna proceed, and hopefully she can. If she joins us, then we'll stop and let her do her little announcement. Okay. First, we're going to get approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Diane. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Kelly. And is there any changes or addendums or anything on the agenda anybody wants to discuss? Okay, with hearing none, I will go ahead and do roll call vote. Angie Lewis?
Aye.
Diane Landry?
Aye.
Kelly Noe?
Aye.
Ed Walker?
Aye.
Jeannie Fernandez? Aye. Jeannie Broom?
Aye.
And that's it. Okay. We will now move forward. So first we're going to start with facilities, maintenance, and operations. And I'm going to turn it over to Jenny Bruneman, who is going to introduce the item, and then she'll be turning it over to Tony to proceed. So go ahead, Jenny.
good evening, everyone. Jenny Bruneman, Director of Facilities, Maintenance, Operations, and Bond Construction Management. And I am presenting tonight the adoption of a resolution, number 10, determining that the school consolidation project, the one that we've discussed the last couple of meetings, or just the last meeting, regarding the Laguna and the district office moving to El Molino, the El Molino to Annalee. So this is basically a resolution where we're asking you to find that the project is categorically exempt from the CEQA Act, the California Environmental Quality Act, and for you to direct staff to file the appropriate paperwork. And Tony Beal has a presentation this evening, and we also have legal counsel here to answer any additional questions you may have.
Thank you, Jenny. Go ahead, Tony.
I'm not muted. Okay. So we have a presentation tonight, which is going to hopefully summarize both the CEQA categorical exemption and also the, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Hopefully it's going to clarify the potential impacts of the categorical exemption and also the ballot measures as well in each of those scenarios. So I think this is going to do it. Can you see? Everybody can see it?
Yep. Okay,
here we go. So let me see. So it looks like I'm not actually looking at you. There we go. Okay, so the presentation tonight, like I said, is going to help describe the potential impacts of the CEQA categorical exemption and the ballot measures on the options that are provided by the categorical exemption of CEQA. Okay, first I'll have to. So first we wanted to start with just reviewing what the staff recommendation was at the end of the November 18th board meeting. And that was that we were recommending that the board pursue scenario 5, which, as Jenny has said, is the Laguna program district office to the El Molino campus and El Molino and Annalee, El Molino to the Annalee campus beginning next school year. We talked about what the benefits of that move might be. And the largest benefit was that this move could possibly qualify for a categorical exemption. The timeline would be 35 days, which would allow us as a district to use this option as a potential procedural placeholder for our fiscal recovery plan. So this move was meant to be a procedural placeholder, and that was the goal of pursuing this as a categorical exemption. By pursuing this option, it would allow for flexibility for the district in terms of options. It doesn't eliminate any options, but it allows the district many options in this case. So what we wanted to do tonight was move through these different scenarios. When I start to think about them, I start to get confused myself. So we thought it would be good to have these all laid out as options and what the consequences would be for each. So the first one we're going to look at is with the categorical exemption. Assuming that the board were to pass the resolution to file for the categorical exemption, what would happen with the categorical exemption? Both with option 1, which would be consolidation in 21-22, how that would play out with the TOT or the parcel tax, if either the TOT or the parcel tax passes. What would happen if both of those passed? We would look at option 2, consolidation in the 22-23 school year with an additional $400,000 in budget reductions. And we would look at both of those in terms of both of those two options, whether the TOT and the parcel tax passed or one of them passed. The next option that we're going to present is without categorical exemption. So the first two assume that the categorical exemption would pass. The last one is that the categorical exemption would not pass. And then we're going to show the $1 million in ongoing budget reductions that would need to be done in that case, and what would happen if the TOT or the parcel tax passes, and in a scenario where both of them passed. So this is what we're going to present for you now. So the first option is with the categorical exemption. This is assuming that the board were to pass the resolution tonight to move forward with the categorical exemption, and the categorical exemption would pass. What we would need to do in that case is we would have to develop a fiscal recovery plan that would be due in March. It would state that consolidation were happening in 21-22. This is option 1. There are 2 of these options. This is just option 1. Option 1 would be consolidation in 21-22, in which case the savings that would come and that would appear on our fiscal recovery plan would be the savings of consolidation that we've seen before. So again, this is just option 1. This is the consolidation 21-22, and this is assuming the categorical exemption were to pass. In terms of student scheduling, you've seen these before, but we put them on these specific slides. In this case, our student scheduling process would begin in December. Students would be scheduled for 7 classes, and the layoffs that would happen on March 15th, March 31st, and May 15th, based on the consolidation scenario that appears above. So that's option 1. What would happen, I'm sure you're wondering, if we were to go with option 1 and consolidation were to happen in 21-22? What would happen if the parcel tax, what would happen with the parcel tax and the TOT in those scenarios? In this case, if the TOT passed, consolidation would be delayed until 22-23. If the parcel tax passed, consolidation would also be delayed until 22-23. And if they both passed, we could delay the effects of the consolidation decision. In this option, the original decision was to consolidate in 21-22. If that were the decision and both passed, we could potentially delay the effects until 23-24. So that's scenario 1. The next scenario is assuming the categorical exemption is approved by the board tonight and also passes, we would need to develop a fiscal recovery plan. In this case, in option 2, the board would not decide to consolidate in 21-22. Instead, the board would make the decision to move forward with consolidation in 22-23. If that were the decision of the board would need to also identify $400,000 in additional reductions. In that case, we've identified that would likely be the 6-period day with an optional 0 and 7th. So not a full 6-period day, but a modified 6-period day, which would include options for students to take 0 and 7th period. There are some examples listed here as they were in our other presentation. In addition to that, there would be additional certificated administrative positions that would be eliminated to produce another $100,000 in savings. In addition to that, we would have the consolidation costs, and these are the ones that you've seen before. This consolidation would happen in this scenario. It would not happen in 21-22. It would have, the board would be saying would be doing it in 22-23. So what happens with these? I think we've seen these in the previous slides. In terms of student scheduling, our scheduling would still begin in December. It always begins in December. Students would need to rank elective choices, and teachers would have 1 prep period instead of 2 because it would be the modified 6-period day rather than a 7-period day. We would have to create separate schedules because we wouldn't know exactly what the result would be. And in terms of staffing, our reductions, teachers would receive, there would be additional layoffs in this scenario where there would be a reduction up to 15 additional sections of teacher reductions. Classes are, of course, determined on student requests, and there would be March 31st and May 15th notices that would happen to staff. And of course, as we mentioned in our previous presentations, we don't know what the unknown enrollment impact would be on this in terms of cutting sections. So you ask, what would be the impact of the tax impacts on this scenario? Essentially what we found when we did our analysis, and Jeff will talk about this in a minute, is that the impacts on this would be the same. In terms of if the TOT passes, consolidation would be delayed until 22-23. The parcel tax layoffs and consolidation would also be delayed in 22-23. And if both passed, consolidation would be delayed until 23-24. The next scenario is without categorical exemption. So if the board were to decide to not proceed forward with the categorical exemption, or if the categorical exemption did not go through, what would happen then? In this scenario, we would have a fiscal recovery plan that is again due in March. And in this scenario, we would need to identify $1 million in ongoing reductions. And we would need to do that by the March layoff notices. In this case, this is the full 6-period day that we had talked about before. We would be moving to reduce $600,000 in electives. And as from our other scenario, these electives were the ones that would have been cut this year. These are not necessarily the ones would be cut next year, but they would be equivalent reductions in class sections. All of our students would be affected. There would again be additional administrative cuts. We would need to move Laguna and the district office to the El Molino campus. And we would be looking at, in this case, in order to identify the 1 million ongoing, we would be looking at also eliminating some sports. So you've seen these slides before. What would happen in terms of scheduling is that students would all choose 6-period versus 7-period days. Teachers would have 1 prep period. We would have to notify the sports. There would be employee layoffs. And then of course, you've seen these notices of when we would need to notice all of these layoffs. And of course, enrollment impact would happen based on the fact that we would be reducing to a 6-period day. So what would be the tax impacts of this? And this scenario is no categorical exemption. In this case, if the TOT were to pass, we would rescind the layoffs for 21-22. Same thing would happen if the parcel tax passes. We would rescind the layoffs for 21-22. If both the TOT and the parcel tax pass, the delay effects would be until 22-23. So this is where Jeff is. So hopefully Jeff is on this. You on this call, Jeff? Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Sorry.
Here he is. Okay.
On the mute button.
So like one of the questions that we had when we were developing these scenarios was, well, why is there not a significant difference between option 1 and option 2 in terms of the categorical exemption? And this is where Jeff's going to explain what that looks like in terms of our budget.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do here was just kind of take you through a relatively simplistic look, not simple in the numbers, but just trying to kind of take everything else and really focus on what would be the potential impact for deficit spending, this year, in the future years, what we're really looking at, and why it's important that whatever decision that is made, a decision sooner is always more helpful, strictly from the financial side. So this first example here is just currently what we're looking at. So Tony, if you can hit it one time. There we go. So if you look at, this is what we've been talking about pretty much all of this time, is that we have this projected deficit next year of a little bit over 1.1 million. You can see in the first column there, I have, the projected usable fund balance, and I put usable in quotes because it's there. And this is essentially our savings. Like, this is what we have. We've talked about having the overlap of the parcel tax this year. And this is essentially what that is. So we would be exhausting, we would be exhausting next year, really all of our reserves, usable reserves, in 21-22. You can take a look, there's a little bit extra. That last remaining usable balance rolls over into 22-23. And you'll see at the end of 22-23, we would have a deficit spending of $2 million, right? So when we talk about why do we need $2 billion in 2022-23, this is why. The reason is because this deficit gets bigger each year because our projected revenue, right, is going to drop, and our projected expenses will rise. So we will have our current deficit spending, and then that gap gets bigger because we have less money coming in and more money coming out. And then that happens again in 23-24. So we only have to focus right now on 22-23 because we only have to do this year and the 2 out years. But if you look at that even further, then you can see, an even bigger problem in 23-24, where we would be short not only $2 million in 22-23, we'd be short an additional $3 million in 23-24. And that is quite obviously just not sustainable. So the first scenario, as far as the taxes and why the impact doesn't have long-ranging impacts, whoops, went too far. That's okay. Is I wanted to give you or show you a scenario of just, again, what was presented or talked about last time. I know that this isn't set in stone, but if we just continued the current parcel tax, the $48 parcel tax for another 3 years, what would that look like? So you can see the projected deficit spending doesn't change. I just kept those same numbers. And what we would have is we'd have an additional revenue of about 1.15 million, give or take. So in year one, right, in 21-22, that would essentially get us to break even, right? Now in 22-23, though, that deficit gets bigger, but the revenue stays the same. And then essentially we'd be in the same spot that we're in now, which is we'd be looking at $1 million of deficit spending, and we would have a choice. We would either have to make reductions or we would use what we have left of our fund balance to cover it. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately in 23-24, we would have the same dynamic that we have now, where 2 years out, we'd be looking at a $2 million cut. Mm. All right. Now, a very similar scenario happens with the TOT, if just the TOT passes. This one's a little trickier. The parcel tax, we know what the revenue is going to be for the most part, right? We know how many parcels there are. We know how many get taxed. We know what the revenue would be and for how long. The TOT is a little trickier because, we don't know for sure, one, how much, because it hasn't been enforced yet. And two, what happens in the out years if other school districts want to join in and they get their piece and whatnot. So that's why I have the asterisk there. with that being said, I did project it at 1.35 million, which is 50% of the estimate that Supervisor Hopkins gave at our last meeting, right? So I think the estimate there was 2.7 million. And so half of that would be this. So this is, in my opinion, in the best case scenario based on that, which is we get 50% every single year, right? So again, it kind of floats us through the first year. We get that, and we get a little bit more of a surplus, right? So instead of being 6,000 short, we're 193 over. We would carry that to 22, 23, and then also get an additional 1.35 million. But as you can see here, we still end up in that deficit spending category. And then in 23, 24, we have no carryover. We would get the 1.35, and we would have additional deficit spending. So again, these are just the impacts on deficit spending, and why I've been stressing that no matter what option is chosen, this is going to be or need to be a continuing conversation. Whether, like I said, whether it's consolidation, whether it's the parcel taxes, whether it's any of these, it doesn't just go away for us. And so we will continue to have talks because this is what would happen. Now, if both pass, obviously the scenario looks a lot better. Okay. Again, this is also assuming that we get 1.35 every single year. Okay, this is getting 1.35 every single year. So again, I will, hopefully, right? Hopefully the revenue is more than that, right? And even if we get less than 50%, we stay about here. But that's what these numbers are based off of. So this would really take agreement, I guess, from everybody involved that our remaining fund balance gets carried over year to year, right? That we really say, okay, hey, this is how we're best going to stretch this out, because we would have, if both of them passed, an additional, in theory, $2.5 million. That would give us a surplus in year one. If we carried that surplus over to year two, in addition to the other 1.5 million, we would have, we'd be able to cover that deficit and then still have a surplus of 1.7. Now, 23, 24 gets a little bit tricky where it looks great, right? Because we have more additional revenue than projected deficit spending. But I also wanted to show you 24, 25 because we would be making that decision. All right, how do we cover next year's deficit? Kind of in that 23, 24 year. And you'll notice in the 24, 25, we would lose the parcel tax, right? If the parcel tax was only for 3 years. That's why that dollar amount, that additional revenue is so much lower, is because I took the parcel tax out, right? Again, just using it for a 3-year window. And so, again, this is just the impact on deficit spending. We would have decisions to make along the way in any 2 and 3 and 4 year period. We know things will be different, right? These are all just projections. We're going to get new information and all that. But I wanted to kind of lay out why nothing that we choose in the next couple months is going to be a fix all or a save all, and why it doesn't necessarily create the long-term fix that we might hope for. It's going to take some additional conversation. So if we changed nothing else and only had these 2 revenue sources, this is what it would look like. And again, I have the asterisk there just because there's some uncertainty in the out years. Really more based on, not that a tax, not that people aren't going to visit West County, but how much would West Sonoma County Union High School District receive in those out years based on other districts, joining in or not. That would just be the question mark. But again, I did want to project it fully, on the optimistic side, I would say, because even on the optimistic side, I think we're still looking at, 2 years down the road, having a similar conversation.
I think another point we wanted to make that came out at the end of our conversation last Monday was about a full environmental impact report. We just wanted to point out that the district can consider a full ERI that includes Annalee to El Molino and El Molino to Annalee. And that could start in March of 2021 for implementation in one of the future years. So going for a categorical exemption for scenario 5 doesn't preclude us from doing full EIR later on the other scenarios that we've talked about. And if that were to happen, that could happen later if the TOT or the parcel tax passed. And it would allow for more additional time for information and for those conversations that we've talked about. So what are the next steps? So tonight the board is considering the resolution for filing in the categorical exemption. We will also be considering a resolution for consolidation timeline. On a special meeting on Friday, we will have the parcel tax public hearing and also the consideration of the parcel tax resolution. And that was due to timing in terms of a public hearing, that needed to happen 10 days after our last meeting. The first interim budget will come to the board on December the 9th. And the scheduling process will begin for our students in December. We do anticipate and plan to form a superintendent's work group, depending on what the future direction is of the board. We'll determine exactly what the makeup and purpose of that work group is, but we certainly understand that regardless of what the board decides, that we have some work to do in the district in terms of bringing everyone together. So at the very least, that's what the focus of the group will be, but we will certainly have other focuses depending on where we are in terms of the other decisions that the board makes. And that is it for my presentation.
Thank you very much, Tony. Appreciate that. I think that helps answer a lot of questions, but I'm thinking that the board might have some more. So I want to go to the board and ask them to ask any clarifying questions, give some comments, and we'll go from there. So who would like to begin? Diane, I see you have your.
Good. Jeff, this is for you. I assume that in terms of staff raises, you included the step and column salary increases in these projections. At our last board meeting, our regular board meeting, we approved openers for negotiations with the teachers union. Mm-hmm. So anything that would, any salary increases that would be negotiated would not be included here.
Correct. So this is just correct. This is taking our current expenses and projecting them out. So yes, step and column as they stand now mm-hmm. are included in this. Mm-hmm. Additional negotiations or what might be's are not included in that. Okay. So yeah, so that is just currently as it stands now. Again, in with projections, with everything, with cost of living, or not cost of living, but operational expenses going up at a certain rate, medical benefits going up at a certain rate. If any of those are different, these numbers would change, slightly. If we're able to grasp some savings, throughout the year, that will get factored in as well. I just wanted to kind of show like a big picture of that it won't necessarily have as drastic of an impact.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Before we go any further, I want to introduce Mariana again. And Mariana, I think is she already in the interpretation room? Okay. All right. So Mariana is there. If we have any Spanish speakers that would like to receive interpretation, you can go to the interpretation link at the bottom of your screen.
And I just posted a message in Spanish through the chat to all of our attendees.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you. Welcome, Mariana. Okay, thank you. Good question, Diane. Did that help answer your question? Okay. Any other board members? Ted, go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation, staff and Jeff. But I want to make it crystal clear. Your projections out 2, 3, 4 years does not erase the structural deficit. It's still there.
Yes, I mean, again, it will be, and you know, again, regardless of the choice, this is going to be a conversation that we have because, yeah, you know, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road, again, even if it is consolidation, we're going to continue to have it because even that won't fix the 2 year out, 3 year out structural deficit.
So as CBO, you're going to update the board, you're going to update the community every month to tell them where the dollars are. If something bad in Sacramento happens, that could affect these numbers.
Yep.
You're the realist of the group.
I try to be.
You have to pay the bills, and when we run out of money, then stuff happens. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we'll always get new information, and as new information comes up, we'll adjust what we have. Always try to give you guys, what we know and what we have and what we can work from.
Barely still kicking the can down the road, as all the other districts in the county. So, okay, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Yes, Kelly, go ahead.
I have a quick one question. I know we've gone over this before, Tony. I think this is a Tony question, but just around the timing piece, I know that you talked a little bit about the timeline of teacher layoffs that happened on March 15th. Can you also talk a little bit about why the timing is now that we're filing this and the February layoff timeframe, why we have to do this to have it approved in February in advance of that March 15th deadline? What happens in between that time period?
Yeah. In between that time period, we get feedback from the school sites in terms of what courses have been selected. So the course selection process happens, and we work with the school site principals to identify what courses have the highest requests. And we talk about staffing. We give them staffing allocations. So in that process, they're identifying what courses might be laid off, what courses might be eliminated, and what teachers would be in those layoffs. So it's a really important time for us. Mia has to process all of those layoff notices and get them to teachers before the March 15th deadline and bring those to the board for their consideration. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work that's happening from that February to March timeline. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Jeannie Broom.
My internet is very poor, so I'm sorry if it cuts out. I just wanted to, I guess just kind of bring up 2 important dates again for future timeline considerations. Just that the district unification study, that's going to be finished in about probably 2022, right? Early 2022?
No.
Or later?
Yeah.
Okay, so later 2022 or 2023?
Probably 2023 or later.
Yep.
It's going to take 16 to 18 months from the date it gets started, and the scope hasn't even been approved yet.
Right. My understanding is not coming to back to that committee until February, at which time if they approve it, then it'll have to go out for an RFP process. So it won't be starting until at March or April at the very earliest.
Okay. And then the other I wanted to bring up, especially since I'm seeing the 6 period day variations again, is that in 2022, 2023, we are going to have to adjust our schedule to account for a new California state law regarding school start time.
Right. I think that's a really good point. And currently we are actually not starting classes until 8:30. And we actually still are offering a 7 period day. So I think it's possible to do. even if we just use the current schedule that we're following right now.
Okay, good questions, Jeannie. Thank you. Good comments. Angie, do you have any questions, any comments that you'd like to make?
I'm okay right now.
Okay, thank you. Kelly answered or asked one of the questions I wanted to ask, so thank you, Kelly, and that was with regards to the reason why the timing is such the way that it is right now. And was something else I wanted to ask. Hold on, let me look at my notes. So I think it would be, if you could clarify again, Tony, what happens when, I'm so confused. What happens when if the parcel tax passes and if the TOT passes or if both of them pass, what's that timeline look like again? Can you go back over that again for us?
The timeline in terms of when they would pass, we would know the election would be in March. And it depends. It depends on how the votes come in. If the votes are close and we're not certain if it's going to pass with 67%, then we would have to wait till it was certified. And certification, Jeff can correct me, but I think it takes 30 days. So in terms of timing, if it's close, we actually don't have the official results until it would be the beginning of April that we would know those official results.
Okay. And if we're looking to try to get some bridge money, let's say from the TOT tax early, how is that going to work, or will that help us, or can you go over that, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I understand it, in terms of getting money before July, it wouldn't be into effect until July of 2021, right? And so the way that I understand it, right? And then I did see an email. I mean, essentially what happens is if we know that a certain amount of revenue is going to be coming, then we can include it in our budget. This happens all the time for us with parcel taxes, with property taxes, for instance, is we know we're going to get them, but we don't get them until December. So in August and September and October and November, we're paying bills knowing that we're going to get that money in December, and then we get it in December, and then we kind of settle up, and then we have extra, and that gets us through a couple months, and then we get another round in April, and so it works that way. My understanding is that a TOT tax like this would work similarly. We would be able to access about 85% of what the projected revenue was, but I don't believe that we would get. I mean, that would be more of a cash flow thing than a budget thing of like the cash coming in to pay the bills versus including it in our budget. If it passes and we can anticipate a certain amount of revenue, I believe that we can include it. We can put it in the budget. Yeah.
Okay, that's very good news. Actually, that's very good news. And also, I got the same email. It looks like that if we're having a cash flow issue, it looks like we can ask the treasurer, the county treasurer, for some advance funds, up to 85% of what that might be. So, at least we have that as an option if we need to. But it's good to know that, in fact, if it looks like it's going to pass, then we can, in fact, put that into our recovery plan. And that's kind of what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Now, along the guidelines, or along the lines of the, I'm going to say this, and if I'm not correct, Tony or Jenny or Jeff, correct me. So it looks like if, in fact, the parcel tax passes, that gives us a year that we can buy a year. It gives us some bridge funding for a year. Mm-hmm. If the TOT tax passes, it's the same thing. If they both pass, we can potentially buy 2 years. And that would be through 2023, 2024, correct?
That would get you through 22, 23, right? So that'd
22,
be
23.
21, 22, and then 22, 23. Those would be the 2 years.
Okay.
If they both pass, 23, 24, looks okay. Just likely we're going to have that conversation, even though we're not deficit spending in that year. We're projecting to deficit spend the year after. And then, so those would be those conversations of, do we want to make smaller changes earlier, so that they have a multi-year impact, or
right. Okay.
Do you want to wait all the way to that year? Unless,
something really drastic happens, like we lose a lot of students, or the governor takes more money away, or God knows what. Right. It looks like we might be able to stave off our consolidation issue until that time, correct?
Yeah, barring any other
barring and I mean, we understand that there's we have to always prepare for that rainy day and that unforeseen whatever. Anybody who manages a budget, even in your household, you kind of should be doing that. that's being fiscally responsible. Okay, so that I just wanted to just clarify those dates again, so that not only I but the public can hear that again. But those were my two big issues: were the funding measure, the funding from the measures, and with regards then to those dates. So is there any other comments or questions from, okay, Angie, go ahead.
This is a question for Jeff. I was at the CSBA virtual training all day, geeking out on board member stuff. My brain, that's probably why I'm a little rummy, is got slides everywhere. One of the things that they talked about is the likelihood of us going into a recession and what that would do to the state budget.
Right.
Which, if we don't have reserves, that doesn't look very good for us, correct?
Correct. When we very, very first started this conversation, a couple months ago, from the state level, while we have much better news for this year, right? For 21, 22, we expect to have better news than we had 6 months ago. There still is uncertainty about the long-term impacts of the pandemic. There still is uncertainty about when or if certain groups of people will be able to go back to work. The pandemic has obviously definitely hurt the service industry. It's been okay for certain groups of people where they haven't been relatively impacted. A lot of the high earners, which is good for the tax base. But there is a pretty big portion that is impacted, and the long-term effects of that this could be kind of like a delayed recession, where it's not as immediate as we thought, but 22, 23, it might slow down. That tax base might slow down. And so, for any of those, having reserves is always helpful.
Right. And just, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Sorry, I have boys hovering around me. I was just, elaborating on a little bit. I just sat in a training all day about fiscal responsibility, but above and beyond that, there was a statistic they pulled from a study where I think you're supposed to spend about 11% of your board time on the budget and 65% on performance and education and programs. And my hope is that we can get to the point where we can start focusing on what these kids need in distance learning. And so I'm hopeful. It was just kind of a eye-opening. I'm sitting there thinking all I've done since I become a board member is beat the budget to death. And I've heard that historically that's the issue too. So I think, we've got to start steering this in a good direction, like you said, to create those longer lasting effects that help us float.
Well, Angie, I'm really glad that you are attending that conference. I think it's really helpful and can offer a real wealth of information. And I know it can be long and arduous, but good for you for doing that. I think you'll find it very, very helpful as you progress in your term as a trustee. And along the lines of what Angie was saying about our reserves, it's one of the reasons that Jeff actually started adding some other reserves into our budget instead of just our normal 3%. He started tucking some of that other money away. So thank you, Jeff, for doing that, because I think it's will prove at some point to be very helpful that we have those funds available should we need them. Okay, any other questions or comments from the board before I open it up to public comment? Okay, so before we begin with public comment, I would like to take a moment and thank the community for their very polite and very appropriate behavior at our last meeting. So thank you very much. I realize, and indeed the entire board and our superintendent realize, that the idea of consolidating our campuses is incredibly emotional. People love their schools. Closing a campus is sensitive, personal, and sad. For some, it represents inconvenience, and for others, it seems like a betrayal of sorts, like one school is favored over the other. In short, we get it. This is hard and sad, and some people are going to continue to speak up and speak loudly in opposition to this idea. Believe me, this is emotional for the school board members as well. We love our schools and their rich traditions and their personalities. While this is emotional, I am again reminding everyone that we must keep our tempers and our words in check when in these public meetings. All boards of education are elected bodies and have a legal responsibility to make sure that all voices can be heard and considered. Following last week's meeting, I again want to say thank you to each and every one of you for making sure that you did keep your emotions in check and that you shared your thoughts and feelings with us, as I'm sure you will this evening. We still are hearing from some people that they are afraid to speak up. They are afraid to share their points of view. This is unacceptable. Not only is it rude and poor modeling for our students, it flies in the face of our government, what it's based upon. Of the people, by the people, and for the people. All of the people must be allowed to speak without fear of retribution. So I ask again for everyone who wants to address the board tonight to please speak with respect, make your points without hateful and hurtful comments or tone, and help us create a space where we all feel welcome, safe to express our points of view. If a speaker steps out of line and violates the board policies, we will cut your mic. If the meeting becomes unruly and disrespectful, I will recess the meeting. I am confident that we can listen to one another with patience and understanding. After all, that is what we teach and expect from our students when they are discussing, debating, and deliberating, and they should expect it from us too. Thank you guys very much. So with that,
Jeannie, I just have one question here. So I made that presentation as an addition to the agenda item that Jenny is presenting, which is the resolution. And I didn't know whether we wanted Jenny to go ahead and present that resolution since that's this topic, or if we wanted to take public comment now. I didn't know.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we actually do need Jenny to present it. You're very correct. I'm sorry. And at some point, we probably should, I hate to do this, but we should probably read the resolution so that it's very clear for those that don't have a copy of it. So I'm happy to do that, or I can share it with you, Jenny, or we can tag team, whatever you'd like. But go ahead, Jenny, and definitely, I'm very sorry. Let's go ahead and if you would please present the resolution to us.
So the resolution is pretty cut and dry in terms of it's just a process, and we do have Phil with legal here tonight to help answer any additional questions. So what I have before you tonight is a resolution that legal has helped us prepare, determining that this project being presented before you, which is moving Laguna and the district office to El Molino and El Molino to Annalee, is categorically exempt from the full CEQA process. And if we file, or if you guys approve this resolution tonight, staff will file the appropriate paperwork with the county and the state clearinghouse tomorrow, and that will start our 35-day notification process. So I'm happy to read the resolution to you all if you think that that would be beneficial. So there's a lot of whereases, so bear with me a second because I've got multiple screens going, so I'm not going to be looking at you guys while I'm reading. So this is resolution number 10, November 2020-2021 of the West Sonoma County Union High School District, determining the school consolidation project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act and deciding to carry out the project. Whereas the West Sonoma County Union High School District has developed the school consolidation project, and whereas the project is located within the existing school grounds of Annalee High School, located at 6950 Annalee Avenue. I'm going to paraphrase some of this stuff if you guys don't mind. El Molino High School, located at 7050 Cubby Road, and Laguna High School, located at 445 Taft Street in Sebastopol. Whereas the project consists of consolidating the students, faculty, and staff of El Molino High School to Annalee High School and Laguna High School, and transfer of Laguna High School students, faculty, and staff to the El Molino High School campus. And whereas categorical exemptions to the California Environmental Quality Act are set forth in Article 19 of Title 14 of the California Code of Regulations, which is the CEQA guidelines. And whereas the Class 14 categorical exemption set forth in CEQA guidelines sections 15314 exempts a project that consists of minor additions to existing schools within the existing school grounds where the additions do not increase original student capacity by more than 25% or 10 classrooms, whichever is less. And whereas the project is minor additions to 3 schools because the only additions are students, faculty, and staff. And whereas there is an original student capacity of 1,639 students at Annalee High School, 1,193 students at El Molino High School, and 214 students at Laguna High School. And whereas there exists 1,154 students at Annalee High School, 553 students at El Molino High School, and 88 students at Laguna High School. And whereas there is an available capacity of 485 students at Annalee High School, 640 students at El Molino High School, and 126 students at Laguna High School. And whereas the project consolidates the 553 students from El Molino High School to Annalee High School and Laguna High School that have combined available capacity for 699 students. And in parentheses, that says equal to 485 plus 214. And whereas the project transfers the 88 students from Laguna High School to the vacated El Molino High School campus. And whereas the project consolidation and transfers are fully accommodated within the original and available capacities of the 3 schools. And whereas the project minor additions to the 3 existing schools will not increase these schools' student capacities, and no new classrooms or support facilities are needed. And whereas CEQA guidelines section 15300.2c provides that if unusual circumstances exist, an otherwise categorically exempt project could be disqualified from being exempt if the project could cause significant environmental impacts. And whereas the district is unaware of any unusual circumstances that would negate the use of Class 14 categorical exemption for this project. And now, therefore, for the good of sufficient cause, based on the entire record of proceedings, the Governing Board of Trustees of the West Sonoma County Union High School District hereby finds, determines, declares, orders, and resolves as follows. Section 1, that the above recitals are true and correct. Section 2, the project meets the definition of Class 14 categorical exemption, CEQA Guidelines 15314. Section 3, there are no indication of unusual circumstances that would accept the Class 14 categorical exemption. Section 4, the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA. Section 5, the applicable requirements of CEQA have been fulfilled for the project. Section 6, the board hereby finally approves and decides to carry out the project. Section 7, that the district superintendent or her designee is authorized and directed to file the attached notice of exemption for the project with Sonoma County Clerk and the State Clearinghouse. This resolution shall take effect upon adoption. And then the rest of it is just the certification piece, if it does go through, that the clerk for the board would sign after the board meeting. So I'm happy to take questions or move into public comment.
Does the board have any questions with regards to this resolution for Jenny or for Phil for that matter? Yes, Angie.
I just had a question, like just looking at the numbers, I was just doing the quick math of the last paragraph on the first page, whereas the project consolidates, it's just talking about capacity. It's 485, which is the available capacity of Annalee. Where's that 214 coming from?
That's Laguna.
Because Laguna, it says the capacity for, oh, okay. All right, I got it. Sorry, I was crunching.
It's 2 above, sorry.
Got it.
Good question. Any other questions for Jenny or Phil with regards to this? Okay. All right. So as we did last week at our meeting, I'm going to give everyone approximately 20 seconds or so to, oops, hold on a second, Ted.
Procedural question. Procedural question. Do you want us to make the motion in a second before public comment or after?
Let's let the public speak. I think they're ready and then we'll come back to that, Ted. But if I don't, remind me, okay? Thanks. Okay, so we're giving everyone here about 20 seconds or so to get your hands up. And then I will close that and Jenny will mark where that is. And then we will decide how long we are going to allow for each person to speak. Okay, I'm not seeing any more hands raising, so we're going to go ahead and close it off at Adam Parks there, Jenny. And how many people is that?
18.
18, okay. So what says the board for how long we'd like to give our speakers? We ended last week with 1:30. Ted's saying 2 minutes. What's the board's thought on this?
I'd say at least 1.5 minutes. 1 minute was too short.
Yeah, I think 1 minute's too short. 2 minutes, okay. So Diane's going to say 2 minutes. That's 36 minutes. Okay. All right. So we're going to give 2 minutes, Jenny. You would put that up on the screen and then we'll let everyone speak. Please know that we will not be responding or answering your questions. This is just an opportunity for you to have public comment. Thank you.
Hold on, I got to get a few things going.
No problem.
My timer wants to start before I do. Is that the 1 minute one? Sorry.
Yes.
Do I not have a 2 minute timer? All right. While in the background, I'll get the 2 minute timer going. I thought I cleared this up last time.
Do we
Where
want
am
to go ahead and let the first person start while you do that?
Yeah, I just had to, I only have one screen tonight, so you guys have to bear with me. All right, first speaker is Leslie McCormick, then Gillian Hayes, then Supervisor Hopkins. Leslie, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, wow. I didn't think I'd be first, but thank you so much for your time. Thank you to the board. Thank you to Tony for your presentation. And, I wanted to kind of echo Jeannie Broom again. She beat me to the punch because she's so brilliant. Love you. I'm just going to throw this out there. I know you can't comment. I just want to, in those numbers, I feel like I missed an option in the numbers where we have a 6-period day. I know that makes Annalee people, from what I hear, shudder. And I know we don't want to lose something that makes us special, but other schools like Piner, they only operate on a 6-period day. I wanted to explore the numbers with a 6-period day with a new later starter time and have a hybrid option for 0 period so we don't reduce all of our sections. Also, I just really want to ask and appeal to the board and the district. I feel as a taxpayer and a parent in this district that it is your duty to look after all schools. And often it really has felt in the last 3.5 years that El Molino really is kind of last on the list, Laguna too. And so I know that's just a feeling, but I wanted to share that with you. It seems that we are underrepresented on the board. And so therefore we are the first to go. We are looking at evicting 550 students from their school. And I want to remind you that we are not cans to be kicked down the road. Our kids are not musical chairs. They're human beings. And part of their identity is built into that school.
Thank you, Leslie.
I still have time.
You don't. It's a 3-minute clock. Sorry, everyone. I don't have a 2-minute clock tonight. I only have a 3-minute clock. So when it hits 1 o'clock, if you guys could stop talking, I'll give you a few extra seconds to round out your comment. And Gillian, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and let me reset.
Thank you.
Really
can you
quick.
hear me?
I can. Give me a second to reset this thing.
Okay, sure.
Sorry. Thank you.
Let me know when to go.
You're good to go. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all, board, for your time working on this most sensitive issue. Thank you, Tony, for working with us, trying to move things forward. I would like to point out that Newsom just announced today another $500 million in grants up and coming. More stimulus money is on the way. This is great news for us in our schools. So we really need to keep that in our back pocket. Tony did say the CEQA was going to be posted in February. I'm going to request that the board hold off and post that CEQA until March 1st or 2nd. Gives us a little more time. I understand that there's a deadline to get pink slips out, but if we could, I would like to hold off on that. Again, I also would like to be notified the very day that that NOE is posted, as I also requested via email prior. I just want to implore that the board please stretch out consolidation as long as possible with Jeff's conservative estimates. He gave a great overview of conservative numbers that show stability until 23-24 and 24-25 if both taxes passed. So I please beg the board to listen to those numbers and to listen to Jeannie's conversation that we could stave off consolidation very comfortably until 23-24 and maybe a little bit uncomfortably to 24-25. But if we find more grants and revenues in the meantime, that's a long time. That is 4.5, 5 years for our students to be at this high school, which is near and dear to us. So please take 21-22 off the table right now. Thanks, Tony, for your superintendent's work group idea. I love it. I would love to be a part of that. I agree with Angie. We need to balance salaries and benefits and percentage of our budget more responsibly for programming. And reminder, the TOT's forever. This could supplement those programming needs and balance our budget better. Again, I just want to say thank you. I look forward to staving off consolidation as long as possible. And I really, really am excited to work together collaboratively moving forward to save our schools. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian.
And Supervisor Hopkins, you're up next. And I'm bringing Judy Gooden, Clay Thistle, and Patrick Nagel will be up after her. Supervisor Hopkins, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. First, I want to provide you all with a news update. It was yet another nail-biting vote this morning at the Board of Supervisors, but we did at long last take the final step to place the TOT measure on the ballot. So that final hurdle has been cleared at the county level, and I know I at least will be sleeping a little bit better tonight. I want to again thank the trustees for your resolution in support of the measure, and I believe that your public support was actually critical in maintaining the affirmative but difficult vote of Chairwoman Susan Gorin, because she really struggled with it. I also want to acknowledge just how hard this process is and the service of the Board of Trustees. It really resonated with me when Trustee Lewis said, "All I've done since I became a board member is beat the budget to death." You guys are constantly in survival mode, facing declining revenue and increasing costs. And these budget challenges really put you in an extraordinarily difficult leadership position. I also want to acknowledge that there is, in fact, a need for a procedural placeholder. You're backed up against a wall in terms of state requirements for presenting a balanced budget. So I want to speak in support of meeting those state requirements with the procedural placeholder, but in the same breath, also encourage you to consider a strengthened resolution and moving forward with a full CEQA process in March to look at all possible options and impacts. And finally, as the clock ticks down, I just want to say that I really look forward to doing everything I can to get the parcel tax and transient occupancy tax measures passed in March. And I'm really hoping that these two measures will help bridge a divided community and pull West County together to work together in the interests of our teachers and students. Thank you all so much for your service and for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Hopkins.
And our next speaker is Judy Gooden. Go ahead and you have the floor.
Hi, I'm Judy Gooden. With enrollment down and our prospects for improvement of enrollment really not there at all, I really would like to see us pass this resolution to consolidate and move the schools. I see no benefit to delay the inevitable despite prospective tax revenues. Instead of fighting this, I would like to see us put our energy into facilitating the process for these students, teachers, and parents to become one community and one culture. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Clay Thistle. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. And you have the floor.
Hi, Clay Thistle, Forestville resident. Unfortunately, I find it troubling to thank the board or to thank Tony at this time. This has been an ongoing fiscal problem that no one is willing to step forward and solve. I compel you to do your part and look deeper into these funding options. It would seem that a 6-period solution now is a bigger savings over the future years. And please, Jeff, don't tuck away the money. We need it now. Take the time to do it right. I don't see any study done for the categorical exemption. Do you know what the categorical exemption is and why we're pushing it forward? It seems there was lots of study for the other options. Take the time, do it right. Don't do the charter school again. Take the time and do these things right. I still haven't heard anyone talk of basic aid funding. Numerous feeder district schools are very successful under that funding model. Again, take the time, do it right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Clay.
And our next speaker is Patrick. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. I'm also bringing in Carmen, Joanne Mansell, and Sean and Jeannie Trinella. And Patrick, you have the floor.
Good evening. As I've listened to all of the various options and potential funding, the one thing that's very clear to me is we're left with a lot of maybes. Maybe the parcel tax passes, maybe the TOT passes, maybe it's going to give us X amount of dollars, maybe it won't. We don't really know. So I implore the board to build themselves a safety net and support this resolution. This is the chance that we have to protect the schools, protect the programming that is such a valuable piece of our education here in the West County, that we have to set up a placeholder and a safety net in the event that these don't pass. So I based on the results of Measure B just a year ago, or not that long ago, we didn't know it passed until the very last moment. We barely got to the 67% mark that we needed. So I think it makes good fiscal sense and to do the right thing, which is to prepare a safety net, and then we have a backup plan, and then we can focus the energy and efforts into passing the two resolutions, and then that gives us time to do the next step. But we have to be able to protect what we have instead of be left with nothing. So good night, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Carmen. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you. I'm Carmen Sinajani. I'm speaking as a Annalee alumni and Annalee parent of 2 kids at Annalee and a Sebastopol resident. I'm in support of option 1, the categorical exemption with consolidation occurring in the 21-22 school year if the tax measures do not pass. The resolution as currently written was well done and should be adopted, with the notice being posted immediately. I firmly believe that the categorical exemption is the appropriate way to go. Why would the district want to spend the money on a full CEQA if clearly, as what has been presented to us, a CEQA is not necessary and a categorical exemption would apply? Option 1 is also the fiscally responsible option. As we just heard Patrick say, it provides a sound backup plan should the tax measures fail. I'm in support of the tax measures. I will campaign or be in clear support of those tax measures if we have a sound backup plan, just like I did with Measure B. It's also important to have stability and certainty for students and parents who are legitimately concerned that their music or sports or art or drama or ag are slated to be cut. Students and parents need to have confidence, otherwise they will look elsewhere, and those conversations are already happening. People will flee the district if they don't know either way whether their programs will be cut. Immediately proceeding with the categorical exemption will let parents know in just 35 days whether there's at least a fallback plan. Interdistrict transfers are due come February, so they need to know now to plan. And then real quick, just it's super important for the teachers too. I'd hate to see us lose our really great teachers.
Carmen, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
And our next speaker is Joanna. Go ahead and unmute yourself. And you have the floor.
Hi, Joanna Mansell. I'm my 2 kids graduated, one from El Molino and one from Annalee a few years back. But I speak as a concerned member of the community, and I want to address, I talked to you last time about mental health of students. And I think that for those who don't deal with it on a daily basis, or those who don't know much about it, it is a very important issue for current high school students, especially those at El Molino who just were evacuated again from the Walbridge fire. I want to echo Gillian Hayes and Linda Hopkins. I'm in support of a full CEQA, first of all, because I think that any consolidation will have a big effect on anyone in the area around Annalee. But most of all, I want to bring it back to student mental health. It is a massive problem. And the issues that these students deal with and are dealing with at the moment make it extremely difficult for them to deal with the thought that their assumed path is going to change. This will take them a long time, a very long time to get over. And so I implore you to put student mental health as a priority. I think that it is a bigger priority than pink slips for teachers. Teachers are adults and they have ways to deal with things. Students do not, and it will have a massive impact on their futures. So please keep their mental health as a priority and give them as much time as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Sean or Jeannie Chernella. And then I'm also bringing into the room, I believe this is Galen Sword, Cindy Picate, and Jessie Mills. And you have the floor, Sean or Jeannie.
Hi, this is Jeannie Chernilla. I am a Russian River resident and an El Molino parent in the past, and potentially an El Molino parent in the future. It depends on the consolidation, quite frankly. I'd like to see the bids for adding 23 portable classrooms to the El Molino campus versus retrofitting the Annalee campus, clearing the toxic mold from the Annalee campus, and for making the Annalee campus ADA compliant. I'd like to know when that information will be publicly available. I support a full CEQA. It is irresponsible not to undertake this action. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is, I believe it's Galen. You have the floor.
Hi, yes, this is Galen Sword. And I just want to start by saying that we all know that there's no easy option here. We're not fixing everything, as Jeff has made very clear, and that these taxes are to be put in place to give time for those unification studies to be completed and hopefully come up with a long-term solution. But I also get very frustrated when I hear people saying that we just need to stop delaying the inevitable. Because if you are looking into or standing in the shoes of El Molino parents, I think you would be thinking about that very differently. These are our students. And as Leslie stated, it's not just kicking the can down the road. These are students that need time. By going with option one and rushing into this consolidation in 21-22, it eliminates any option for students to participate in this process. You're looking at 550 students that are being told right now that there is a possibility they will never return to their beloved high school. Think about that. They will never return to their high school. It is important that they have time to participate in this process, that they have time, if they have to consolidate at some point, that they have time to participate in that and to make it a new school, not just get shoved into classrooms because it's the easiest option at this point. Yes, these are hard decisions to be made. There are a lot of uncertainties here, but you have to be thinking about these students that are being told that there is a chance, very likely, that they won't be returning to their beloved high school. Please think about that.
Thank you, Galen.
And our next speaker is, looks like, Jessie, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Jessie Mills, Forestville resident, also Elmo alum. And I don't know that I've mentioned this before, but between my siblings and I, there are 14 kids that are 8 years old and under that live in Forestville and plan to attend El Molino. So this obviously has a big impact on me, just like it does a lot of other people. The first thing I want to address is my concern with all of the people supporting consolidation who are saying, let's just rip the Band-Aid off, let's get it over with. But these are all people whose children go to Annalee, or they went to Annalee, or they live in Sebastopol. And so they have a vested interest in having that school be the school that remains open. Let me ask all of them this and all of you this. What if this shoe was on the other foot? And what if everyone was supporting closing Annalee and shipping everybody to El Molino? I think the conversation would be completely different, and nobody is addressing that. Everyone wants this consolidation who wants it because the board has made it very clear that El Molino is the school they want to target, that they want to close. I think we need a full CEQA study, and I think that we need to wait until February, like Gillian asked, to do the notice, the CEQA notice, because we're trying to put tax measures on the ballot. And if this board creates a situation by giving the notice now, you're opening yourselves up to liability, and it's going to be difficult to push a tax with a district that is already not trusted by the public based on Measure B, and have ongoing litigation or possible litigation while this tax is moving forward. So I'm asking that you wait, that you do a full CEQA, and that you hire an independent consultant to figure out which school, if consolidation is inevitable, which school is going to be the best site. So please do your homework and
thank you,
and don't push this.
And our next speaker is Cindy Pacate, but I'm also bringing in Steve Griffiths, Ian Burnett, and Leah Woody. Cindy, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. I'm going to move on to Steve Griffiths. Or Griffiths.
Are you able to hear me? This is Cindy Packett. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Cindy. Go ahead.
My apologies. So my name is Cindy Packett, and I am reading a letter for the Sebastopol Ag Boosters that we have comprised. We have witnessed tremendous growth in the program over the last 5 years. In order to be in the FFA program, our students are required by the National FFA organization to be enrolled concurrently in an ag class with the high school they attend. Many of the students in the Ag Science program attend Annalee High School specifically for the instructor and course selection that is offered at Annalee. These courses fulfill not only their high school science graduation credits, but are approved for college requirements. These students appreciate the agriculture emphasis in their classes. Not only has the number of students enrolled in the program increased, but the number of students receiving their American degree, the highest honor earned by an FFA member, has more than quadrupled. This shows an investment in the program, not only by the teacher, but by the students as well. This award is a lengthy process with a minimum of 3 years that requires extensive time and record keeping. This increase is all because of a stellar ag program and a teacher that encourages her students to achieve their fullest potential. Our Sebastopol Ag Boosters Board would like to support the School Board of Trustees in doing what it can to save electives in order to save the agriculture program at Annalee. This program is vital to our youth. We understand everyone's concerns and that the school board is trying to do what is best for all the students. Our concern is that these tax measures will not bridge the gap to keep these programs intact without consolidation. Prioritizing programs are essential, and if we need to consolidate to save CTE programs, we support that decision. Thank you for all the time the board has invested in the Sonoma County Unified High School District to support our students. Best regards, Sebastopol Ag Boosters Board of Directors. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Steve Griffiths. If I could just ask everybody, could you do me a favor and not unmute yourself until I ask you? Because if you do, then we can pick up your feedback. So Steve, you have the floor.
What, you don't want to hear my dogs in the background?
Okay.
Yes. All right, thank you. Good evening, board. I've had conversations with many of you, lengthy ones over the years, and I want to thank you for the time you put in on the board and the time that you've spent talking to me. I've learned many different viewpoints, and this is a messy, hard topic. I would like to ask I'm not sure about the full CEQA, but what I do know is that the issue of parking around Annalee has never been mentioned or factored into the cost of retrofitting. You don't need more than just 2 classrooms. There's several hundred cars from far west county that would be involved in a migration in case of consolidation. So I wonder if the architects and Jeff can work up what that figure will take and where that parking would fit. So that's a smaller point. Then the bigger point, this entire episode a few months ago started with 4 options being presented. We ended up with a 5th better option. I'm thinking that with a little time and effort, there's a heck of a brain trust across all of West County. Where is that even better number 6 option lurking? I'm hoping it might be somewhere, because we can do better than closing a school. I think I have a hard time looking at anyone from Annalee and saying, well, sure, you should give up 7 periods. I hope they have the same problem looking us in the eye and saying, well, sure, you should give up your school. This is a very hard thing for either of us to do. Let's pass those tax measures. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Our next speaker is Ian Burnett. You go ahead.
How did that sound?
Sounded great. Thank you again for hosting this meeting, and I appreciate the challenges you are facing. My line of work is project management, and I know firsthand the stress that goes with change. Changing the way someone or a group does something is scary, personal, and hard, especially for the people having change dropped on them. I also know that there can be pitfalls to starting with a gut feeling solution and then justifying it, rather than studying the problem deeply and seeing what solution floats to the top. And so I also support a full CEQA and making publicly available the cost and risk analysis you do on all plans. That said, it's imperative to get all stakeholders to buy in, or at least understand the future state you're trying to change them to for a good chance of success. The board owes the entire community an in-depth look at what the future state is. Sell us on what class ratios will be, what sports, arts, and electives will be available, what transportation to and from school looks like, what it means for teachers to get more stability. Whatever the right solution, with the difficulty in public relations right now after the feelings of deception on Measure B and the recent history of non-success with the charter middle school, the burden is on the school board to show that this consolidation is fully thought through and that it's not a knee-jerk reaction when there's a more creative solution to be had. Long-term, and I know that you can't answer me right now, but for a future answer from the board, I'd like you to speak to insolvency and what that would look like if we ride out this storm. You know, far and away, this problem is happening nationwide, and I would hate to see us amputate a school and lose more students and teachers when help is around the corner from the state or federal government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
And our next speaker is Leah Woody. Then I'm also bringing in Bill Crowlitz and Adam Parks. You have the floor, Leah.
Thank you, Jenny. So I just as a, Leah Whitty, El Molino and Laguna High Schools college and career advisor, 12 years also in this field, and believer in, like, I listened to the parents talking about CT programs, ag. I am such a believer in all of those. I'd like to urge the board to utilize the JC. I'd also like to urge the board to look at the fact that ADA compliance for schools, the school system at Annalee, again, like Steve mentioned before, it's hard, and I don't necessarily have a pick of a school. I just want us to have more options on the board. On on the plate. There's, like Steve said, there's a big brain trust here, and there were only a few options on it, and I'd like to get some more on it. There's a lot that I can see, and I will put it in writing and send it to the board. 6 period, yes, it's going to shake people, but I want to urge the board, please, for the CEQA study, and also remind the board that pink slips for March, we've all gone through it. A lot of us have gone through it, and not to have that be a determining factor in this decision and not to be hasty in it. I'd like to get some more options before this gets passed. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Bill Crowett. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Bill. Yeah, what I'd like to say is I think the general comments we've had and the thoughts is that more revenue is going to solve our problem. I don't really feel we got a revenue problem. I don't think more revenue, more taxes really help us. It really only masks our true underlying problem of not having a critical mass of students to support 3 different campuses. And we know that the head count's going down every year. Programs have been chipped away at each school, really because we don't have enough students to fill all the seats. No more revenue is going to help us help Elmolino field all the sports teams. It isn't going to help us provide enough students to fill all the band classes. It's not going to help us. More of it's not going to help us provide students to fill all the enrichment classes. I think the uncomfortable fact is we do have a viable solution. It's one no one likes, but it does provide a long-term solution that solves both our financial issues and does provide a better, robust list of programs. The sooner we consolidate the schools, the sooner we save money and provide the students with the best option of classes at one site. To me, the choices are: 1, keep the status quo, supported by increased taxes, which provides really a sub-optimized list of programs for each school. Thus, it's costing us more money and it's giving us less quality education. Or we go ahead and consolidate as soon as possible, save some money, and potentially provide a better educational experience for all our students. To me, it's really a choice between property, 3 sites, versus a better education, having all these students at one campus where we could provide the best list of classes and programs. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. And our last speaker on this is Adam Parks. You can go ahead and start.
Good evening. The first 15 seconds is on behalf of the Community Action Coalition. We met over the weekend and we voted to actively support the 2 tax measures. The rest of my time I'm going to spend as a parent. I happen to be a parent of Annalee, but one of the things that's frustrating is somebody said earlier that those of us from Sebastopol and from Annalee can't know what it's like, and you're absolutely correct. We can't. What I can do is I can look at the numbers, and the reason that I am in full support of the resolution before the board is because any delay short of those parcel tax and TOT taxes passing, and not just passing, but providing money. The TOT makes no promises for year to year, and the Board of Supervisors today in their meeting made it clear that there's no guarantees that they have authority over that meeting, that it's part of the general fund. So we can't even say that it's if they pass, it's if we actually get the money. It doesn't take into account additional enrollment decline and additional expenses. Jeff made a great presentation tonight, but what you didn't see in there is what happens if those parcel taxes pass and everything, and we still lose students, because we still have to cut $400,000 and we lose some classes or we lose some key teachers. Any delay burns our limited reserves and doesn't change the inevitable. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't like the word inevitable, that don't like the word that this is predetermined or any of that. I totally get it. But with all due respect, it's not the board's job to look out for schools. It's to look out for students. And near as I can tell from the students that I've talked to from both campuses, that they want programs, they want sports, They want all those things that take kids to school, and it ain't reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's all the other stuff. So we either get to have two defunct, broke schools with limited programming, or we get to actually provide what the students want. Thanks for your time, and I know that this is a rough decision. I really appreciate everybody's efforts towards it.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you very much, Jenny, for managing that. Very much appreciate it. Great job. Okay. Before we move forward with, well, first, let me, I think I will now ask for a motion on this item, and then we can have further conversation about it after we get a motion. Ted?
I would like to make a motion to approve the resolution before us tonight, as presented by Jeannie Brunerman.
Thank you, Ted. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Angie. Okay, so now we will wrap it up with some further discussion on this, or any further discussion? Anybody have anything further they'd like to add? Kelly?
I just want to, I wanted to acknowledge just how difficult this is for everyone. I don't think anyone is going into this decision lightly. I know we've had many conversations and heard a lot of feedback, and hear how incredibly difficult, some of these discussions have been. And I just want to reiterate something that I said last time, that we have to include something in our fiscal recovery plan. And the timeline is not something that we determine, and we have certain deadlines that we need to meet, or the impacts could potentially decimate full sequences of courses. We're not just talking about one class here, one class there. So, and the other piece is, I've heard a lot of comments this evening around, doing a full CEQA. I mean, a lot of really, better student engagement in this process, all things that we can still do. This doesn't preclude us from taking those steps. I think I've said this to many people. It's right now I'm in a yes and situation, that we need to be exploring all of these options so that we have the backup plan to the backup plan to the backup plan, which it might be, not what we had determined at the beginning, but we need to have those backup plans in place. And I think wholeheartedly what we need to do is work together on the parcel tax and the TOT, because that's what is going to give us the time to have some of those thoughtful conversations that people have asked for tonight, have time to do the full CEQA, have time to do that research, because if we don't have those passed, that's where we end up in a very challenging spot. So I just want to acknowledge that this action, it's not precluding us being able to do some of these other pieces of work. And it's important for me to say that.
Thank you, Kelly. I was going to pretty much iterate everything you just said, so that we really want some to be able to have options, and we just can't imagine having to look at some massive layoffs and massive cuts, because we know that massive program cuts equals massive layoff cuts for teachers, and that's by no means what we would like to see have happen. So I wholeheartedly agree with you, Kelly, and we just ask for a little patience from the community with us while we put into place this resolution, so that we can actually get a placeholder in there for our fiscal recovery plan, because it's paramount to be able to do that, to be able to move forward and then continue to have those conversations that people want to have, and to put together some work groups and what have you. So thank you. Anybody else? Ted, I see you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Kelly. Tonight's agenda covers more bases and stuff like that. It's a backup plan to a backup plan to a backup plan. And don't forget, there's still a deficit reduction out there. I brought it up earlier. It's hasn't gone away. And the future boards next 2 or 3 years is going to have to work with Jeff on what reduction in enrollment is going to happen, or are you going to face people to have more children? You know, we're all competing for students. I think this is a great presentation from staff. Kudos to Consul and Jenny for putting the resolution together. I've worked on environmental documents before. Every project doesn't need to have a full-blown EIR. If you read the resolution sentence by sentence, we are legally covering all our bases and we're properly listening to our legal counsel. So I'm very comfortable with what we're doing tonight.
Thank you, Ted, very much. Diane.
Kelly, thank you for what you said. You are so eloquent. You said it just perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Anything else? Okay. So hearing none, we have a motion on the floor for resolution number 10. Hold on, let me get back to it. Resolution number 10, November 2020-2021, determining that school consolidation project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. Okay, I will do a roll call vote. Angie Lewis.
Aye.
Ted Walker.
Aye.
Diane Landry.
Aye.
Kelly Noe.
Aye.
Jeannie Fernandez. Aye. Jeannie Broom.
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you guys very much. Passes.
You forgot Satori.
Oh, Satori, you're here. Welcome. I'm sorry.
Yes, so you did just jump in, but she's here.
Do you want to vote on this one too?
Aye.
Okay, there we go. Good job. Thank you, dear. All righty. Thank you guys very much. Okay. Next is Education Services, consideration of approval of a resolution 11 November 2021 regarding timeline for consolidation. Okay, I'm going to turn this back over to Tony. And are you going to present this, Tony?
I am. I'm going to
Okay.
present this. So, given everything that's going on, there was a request by the board to come up with a resolution that outlined timelines. Timelines for consolidation should either or both of the parcel taxes pass. So this resolution is coming to the board regarding timelines for consolidation. And I can tell you that based on feedback from board members and recent conversations that we've had today, there have been a couple modifications. We are presenting a revised copy of the resolution. And Jenny, are we able to post that?
I'm posting it now. It's going to take me like 2 or 3 minutes. So
the revised proposed draft of the resolution is being posted online. I also have a copy of that revised timeline that I can share with everyone if I can get it up to share my screen. There's one section that was revised. Do you guys see this one on my screen? So for the most part, the beginning part of this resolution is exactly the same. That was posted originally on our website.
Tony, can you make it bigger?
I don't know. Can I? Well, that is a good question. Do I do this?
That's better.
Okay.
Yeah, now I can read it.
So like I said, the first part is the same as the draft that was posted online. The addition, the part that's different is a number 3, and then we've added a number 4 at the bottom. So maybe I should read it for the board. Is that your pleasure? Okay. So this is resolution number 11, November 2020-2021. It's the resolution of the Board of Education of the West Sonoma County Union High School District regarding intention and timing of consolidation and relocation of district high schools and the district office. Whereas the West Sonoma County Union High School District currently operates 2 comprehensive high schools as well as a continuation high school and district administrative offices at various sites within its jurisdiction. And whereas the district has been experiencing overall declining enrollment as well as significant fiscal distress for an extended period of time due to state funding that has not been sufficient to keep pace with the increasing costs associated with operating its educational programming at the quality the residents of the district deserve. And whereas, given the decline in student enrollment, the size of existing district facilities, and projected fiscal landscape, the district has determined that school consolidation is necessary and advisable in order to ensure its long-term ability to meet the needs of its students, provide high-quality educational programming, ensure its fiscal health, which, contingent upon satisfaction of any and all statutory and/or legal prerequisites, would be implemented beginning with the 2021-2022 school year. And whereas the governing board has been engaged in community engagement and outreach in order to explore other available options to address its budget pressures, which have included both ways in which the district could reduce its operating costs as well as raise available revenues. And whereas, in an effort to raise revenues and delay school consolidation, the governing board has expressed its interest and intent to pursue an additional parcel tax measure. And whereas the County of Sonoma has also expressed its interest in supporting the district and its students and delaying school consolidation by pursuing a transient occupancy tax, TOT, measure for the benefit of the district. And whereas, if a district parcel tax and/or Sonoma County TOT are passed by the electorate, the governing board believes that although school consolidation remains necessary and advisable given current and projected district school enrollment, implementation may be delayed based on district receipt of such additional revenues generated by either the parcel tax or the TOT or both. And whereas the governing board desires to adopt a timeline for consolidation to ensure that adequate opportunity is provided to allow the parcel tax and TOT election process to be completed without compromising the district's ability to take all actions as may be necessary and advisable to ensure its fiscal viability. Now, therefore, it be hereby resolved and determined and ordered as follows. Number 1, the above recitals are true and correct. Number 2, the governing board approves a delayed timeline for school consolidation in order to afford the community an opportunity to raise additional revenues for the benefit of the district through tax measures placed on the March 2nd, 2021 ballot as follows. A, if both a district parcel tax and a Sonoma County transient occupancy tax measure benefiting district schools are passed in the March 2nd, 2021 election, district school consolidation will not occur until the, is that correct? 24-25 school year. I'm not sure that's correct. If the district parcel tax measure passes, but a Sonoma County transient occupancy tax measure, I think these, I'm not sure that these dates on this are correct. Anyway, it says, if a district parcel tax measure passes, but a Sonoma County transient occupancy tax measure benefiting district schools does not pass in the March 2, 2021 election, district school consolidation will not occur until the 2023-24 school year. If the Sonoma County transient occupancy tax measure benefiting district schools passes, but a district parcel tax measure does not pass in the March 2nd, 2021 election, district school consolidation will not occur until the 22-23 school year. I'm not sure that those are correct dates, but we can talk about that. Number 3, the governing board reserves the right to proceed with school consolidation at an earlier date should the district experience a significant change in revenues or expenses, and this is the new part. A significant change for purposes of this option would be financial conditions resulting in a negative impact on the district's year-end general fund balance of $750,000 or more. And the new section number 4, the consolidation timeline set forth herein may also be delayed in the event that the district's financial condition substantially improves. A substantial improvement in the district's financial condition would be a net increase in the district's year-end general fund balance of at least $750,000. And then it has the passed and adopted with all the trustees. I think there was a change. I'm not sure that these dates in number 2 are correct. Let me stop the share for a second. Because
Tony, if you look at the dates from the first the first iteration to the second iteration, the first one I believe are correct, and the second one I think are transposed.
Yes, I think so too. This came directly from legal, like a couple, not very long before the meeting started, and I didn't have a chance to check these according to what we had originally. So I need to make sure those dates are the correct ones. The additions that came, the changes that were meant to happen in this document were the addition to number 3, with the addition of, I think in the original one, it said a significant change in revenues or expenses, and what was added was the sentence, a significant change for the purposes of this option, and it specifies that the $750,000 change, or excuse me, $750,000 or more general fund balance. And then number 4 was an additional one. Does that make sense?
Could you read number 3 again, Tony?
So it had the first sentence is the same. The governing board reserves the right to proceed with school consolidation at an earlier date should the district experience a significant change in revenues or expenses. The additional sentence is, a significant change for the purposes of this option would be financial conditions resulting in a negative impact on the district's year-end general fund balance of $750,000 or more. And then the additional section is number 4. And number 4 basically says that the consolidation timeline could be extended. And in this case, a substantial improvement in the district's financial condition would be a net increase of $750,000 or more to the district's year-end general fund balance. Let me just look up the timelines here.
Yeah, can we go back to the original one that was posted and maybe just read the right timelines?
Yeah, let me find.
More clear.
Yep, I'm sorry for that confusion. I gotta find it on my desktop. Here we go. Consolidation timeline. Okay. Oop, that's not it. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff on my desktop.
And just so the public knows, both resolutions are still posted. So if you go back to the original one that was posted today, those are the accurate timelines that would be in the resolution that we would be discussing this evening.
So the timelines are A, if both a district parcel tax and a Sonoma County transient occupancy tax measure benefiting district schools are passed in March 2nd, 2021, district school consolidation would not occur until the 23-24 school year. B, if a district parcel tax measure passes, but a transient occupancy tax measure benefiting the district did not pass in the March 2nd election, it says that it will not occur until the 22-23 school year. So and then the C is also the 22-23 school year. So if one tax passes, as in B or C, 22-23, if both taxes pass, as in A, it's in the 23-24 school year.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
That's what I understood it to be too. Okay.
So the addition, I can make these. The addition is the change in number 3. and the addition of number 4. Let me just do that right now. Are there questions about that?
I have a question.
Yep.
Having to do with the $750,000 loss in net revenue. That could be from a declining student enrollment over 1 year, or it could be an increase in student enrollment, right? Who came up with the $750,000? Was that Jeff?
Yeah, that's pretty much a number, when we're looking at the budget of what would constitute either accelerating it or delaying it based on kind of what our deficit was. And to, if there was a number to be picked, that was the number. And it's not just either increase in revenue or decrease in expenses. It is that ending fund balance, because if we have an increase of revenue of 300,000, but we have an increase in expenses of 300,000, that's a zero, right? So it could be a combination of revenues and expenses, but it has to fundamentally impact the bottom line, the general fund balance.
Yeah. It sounds confusing. Like on the other presentation that you made, I always focus on kids in seats is your revenue that you get from Sacramento. And if those numbers continue to fall, then we're up whatever creek we're in. I'm a little hesitant. I just don't want this resolution to have you and the future board having to go to situation 1. If both measures did not pass and you lost students, the backup plan is you're consolidating in the fall.
Right.
Do people really know that?
Well, I think that, Ted, that's one of the reasons. Sorry, Jeannie.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
This came from feedback from me that I think, when you're thinking of a significant change, how you define a significant change and how I define a significant change might not be the same. And so I think just feeling like, I could sense, it might make people feel a little bit anxious thinking that a significant change might be that, an electric bill goes up and we're saying, oh, well, now we have to consolidate, which in my mind, when we were talking about significant changes, we were talking about exactly what you're saying, that, we're losing like 100 students for some reason, or oops, the recession that someone mentioned comes and, our budget, which has happened, the state has come in and said, oh, sorry, we're actually not giving you all that money. So I think that was trying to get to language and an amount where it would better define what we meant by significant change. And I think that's for both to protect the district, but also to help the community feel like, okay, this is what they mean by significant.
Yeah,
I know that just per pupil would do it, because it doesn't just have to do with per pupil. Like it could be, like I said, state funding changes. It could be, the increased revenue, if the state is getting millions of dollars, maybe there is some great crazy grant we'll be able to write and be able to bring in revenues in that way. But I think that was the intent behind that. And for me, I don't know. I trust Jeff. I don't know, what that amount should be, but I think it is good to define what we mean by that amount.
Well, a question for you and for Tony. Does this tie your hands? Say the last recession was 8 years ago, and the governor took money from schools and came up with the LCFF, and then everyone was owed money that took 8 years to pay them back, and now we're in the new situation. So could you change your mind in July and say we need to consolidate? Are your hands tied with this resolution is my question to my fellow board members. So, I mean, my term ends in 3-4 weeks, but I'm worried about the future of the district. So,
well, thank you, Ted. I know I appreciate that, and I think everybody does. I actually am comfortable with a dollar amount. I think because it makes it clear what we consider significant to be. And if Jeff's comfortable with $750,000 one way or the other, then I'm comfortable with that. I mean, if he said it needed to be $1 million, then we might look at that. If he said 250, that, okay, but I think he's being reasonable. And I think that gives some assurances to the public as well as to what we mean by significant.
okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that explanation, Kelly. That kind of brought it, because I'm reading all this that I hadn't read prior. I had the other version, so I'm like, wait, what are we? So if that's something that you added, Jeff, that you feel good about, I feel the same as you guys.
And I did just send all of the board members the updated copy with the correct dates and with the updated number 3 and 4, and it's now being posted on the webpage as well.
Is that with A saying 23, 24? Is that where the?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so A is 23. It matches the presentation we made earlier tonight, which is that A, if both pass, the consolidation could be delayed until 23, 24. If one passes, either the parcel tax or the TOT, it would be delayed until 22, 23. So B and C both say 22, 23. A says 22, 24. Yeah, and then the updated version has the $750,000 in number 3, and then an additional number 4 added with that same amount.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Good comments, good questions. I like it. I like this discussion. Diane.
It really does make sense to define what is that significant amount. So thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay.
And thanks for turning that around so quickly today. I just want to acknowledge that too. This was definitely done at the 11th hour today. And I know staff has a lot on their plates right now. So I just want to take a moment to appreciate you pulling that together so quickly, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Tony, very much for all of your efforts and work on this. I know this has been, it has been a lot, I know. Any other comments or questions?
I just want to let everybody know all the corrected versions are updated on the agenda packet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and open this up for public comment. We'll leave this open for about 20 seconds or so. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak. And we'll leave it there for just a couple of seconds. Okay, I'm going to close this now. We will end with Galen Sword. And how many is that, Jenny?
That's 8.
8, okay. 2 minutes again, Board? 2 minutes, okay. All right, so we will go ahead and allow 2 minutes. Go ahead.
I could just remind everybody that I don't have a 2-minute marker, so it'll be 3 minutes. And when you get to 1, that'll be your time. And our first speaker, actually, the speaker had their hand up for the last item, but I'm just going to assume that they maybe want to talk this time. Waylon Del Drago, Alana Thistle, and Gillian Hayes. You'll be the first 3 speakers. And Boylan, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, it's Tara Del Drago. Thank you. Parent of Forceville Education Foundation president. 2 daughters, 8th grade, ready to go to high school at the high school that they would like to go to in their town. I just do want to again reiterate, several of my questions have been answered and talked about and asked again in regards to if, you know, both sides, it is about the children, our children. That is what matters. Doesn't matter where we live, where you are, it's our children. So keeping that in mind again, too, just wanting to, you know, comment, pitting one chapter program against the other. First off, that kind of goes against program's philosophy. You know, that's kind of not fair play right there. I would like to ask the board too, to please stretch this out using Jeff's conservative estimates for the numbers. And please use those numbers and add into the resolution and amend it to reflect that adding the 22-23 school year or later, as well as the 23-24 school year or later in the verbiage, I feel is actually pretty important. So that's kind of what I have to say. I had a couple other things that were answered, but again, losing ag, losing band, losing sports, the team, all this comes down to the same thing. You're losing a school. You're losing programs if that happens. It's not just bringing bigger and better to one program. That's, again, our small town wants our small programs, and we want our small, okay, thank you. You know, we want to keep the teachers. We want to do all of that. So consolidation is not best for everybody. So again, this is for the students. They're already traumatized enough by what's happened. And this is awful for all of them. So goes both ways.
Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Gillian. I lost Alana Thistle, I believe. So if you still want to speak, if you could raise your hand. Gillian, you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm always scarred because I can't always hear me. I just want to take a moment to recognize all the Elmo parents that continue to show up to these meetings. There's new parents in every meeting voicing their opinions to this board and the staff. Thank you to the Elmolino parents that are fighting for our children's school. I want to say thanks for adding the resolution language, Kelly and staff and board, to define what significant change means. Also hearing Newsom's $500 million in grants coming out today. This is great. So it's great to identify what a significant increase or decrease is. The only one thing that I would change is number 3 doesn't say a net decrease. It just says any decrease. And then the revenues is a net increase of $750K. So I would say number 3 also needs to have the word net in it. It's either a net increase of $750K or a net decrease. Either one of those would be considered significant. Again, Jeff's last presentation showed us that the stability was until 23-24 and 24-25 if both taxes pass. I would really love the resolution to go back to say 23-24 for 2 and 3 and 24-25 for number 1 as it was originally written in this resolution. I agree with Tara's verbiage. We don't want to tie ourselves in numbers 1, 2, and 3 to just that year. If more revenues come in, we're thinking about the worst case that they're all going to leave. But if more come in, we want to have the verbiage that says 23, 24 or later. So please add net to number 3 and add or later to each one of those 1 through 3 options. Just want to use my last few sentences to clarify that our Elmolino Ag program is very successful. 151 students enrolled this year, the most in the last 5 years. We've had to add ag chem classes to accommodate all these students. I recognize how important Sebastopol Ag is, but so is Forceville's FFA with 4 state degrees last year, 1.1 acre vineyard, $39,000 greenhouse that we haven't even used yet, and a full functional farm facility. Our education at Elmo is quality as it exists now. Thank you all for working with us.
And our next 3 speakers are going to be David Stetcher, Clay Thistle, and Adam Parks. And David, you have the floor almost.
Almost.
There you go.
Hi, my name is David Stetcher, and to sum the situation up, the state doesn't provide us with enough money to afford the kind of education program that West Sonoma County wants. If West County residents want to tax themselves to provide additional revenue above what the state provides, I'm all in favor of it. We're all in favor of better programming. But the state doesn't do that. The local county may. I personally think that transient occupancy taxes are a bad base for the taxes that we need. But neither here nor there. It gives you options to delay the inevitable, the horrible inevitable, maybe even to prevent it. If you get enough revenue, you'll be able to afford the programs. But I've spent way too many years listening to, in particular, politicians saying, you will do this my way or it won't happen at all. So I came here to say, whatever program the district chooses, I will support, and I will support the efforts to implement it. If that's additional revenue to keep 2 schools open, I will enthusiastically do that. But primarily, we must meet the standards that the state sets for our operations. And if we can do that while maintaining the program levels we want, then that's great. But it will take a lot of effort on the part of everybody, and it will take everybody cooperating to figure out the best pathway forward. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
All right, and our next speaker is Clay Tessel. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Clay again. I guess it seems in the budget challenge that there's 2 problems. One is the reduction in revenue or the lack thereof, but also expenses. You know, it seems that we are a district living beyond our means, and it is time to make some adjustments. You know, a 6th period or other options now is a big savings in year 2 and year 3. $600,000 in year 1 is a savings of $800,000 in year 2 or $1 million in year 3. Not only do we need to increase revenue with the taxes and the TOT, but we do need to reduce expenses. Jeff, stop tucking away the money. It's time to reduce the expenses so that we can create a long-standing vision for a successful school that everyone can stand behind. Create a vision that everyone can stand behind. Board, please work to reduce expenses and also support the revenue increases with the tax and the TOT. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clay.
Our next speaker is Adam Parks. You have the floor.
Hi, I just wanted to add that with all the talk of the taxes passing, and I'm in full support of both taxes. I want to make sure that we keep in mind that those taxes, we have to actually have the revenue in time. And I would love to see some language in the resolution that reflects that it's not enough that the taxes pass, but they also have to provide the revenue in a timely fashion that matters. There's been talks about bridge loans and the county providing bridge loans to get us through the TOT and et cetera. From everything I heard this morning, that's not a realistic expectation. It's possible, but not a realistic expectation, and certainly nothing we should bank on. So I love the idea of having this plan in place as a placeholder. I love the idea of planning and being proactive about what this looks like if we have to make this drastic move. Jeff doesn't need anybody sticking up or explaining for him, but as somebody who spent a lot of time working with this budget and looking at this budget and talking with all 3 CBOs, expenses have been cut. There's not a lot left. The next step is reducing programs. Moving to a 6-period day saves $300,000 a year. I'm not sure where the 800 million came from, but last time we looked at it, it was 300,000, which is why they took it off the table last year. It simply didn't save enough money. So we need to wrap our heads around the fact that without significant revenue increases, we're not going to get more students. Students have been declining for years. They're going to continue to decline, and cutting programs will make that drastically worse. I agree wholeheartedly. We shouldn't be pitting programs against each other. We shouldn't be spending our time talking about who's got a better program or who's got a better this team or that team or whatever.
We should be looking at ways that we can start to collaborate and start to look at what this looks like. Everybody wants to talk about what's best for the children. These kids are in school for 4 years. The top 2 levels aren't going to care because they're on their way out before any of this matters. We need to
Adam.
Writers are going to have to look forward to.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you, Adam.
And our last 2 speakers are going to be, come on, computer, Jessie Mills and Galen. Jessie, you have the floor.
Hello again, Jessie Mills here. I first of all want to thank the board for their willingness to have some community input in this resolution. Although I would echo what Gillian said with some edits. Another thing that has been concerning to me throughout this entire process is the fact that everyone looks at this as delaying consolidation. And I just want to make it really clear that our intent is not to delay consolidation. Our intent here is to figure out a way to have both schools open full-time, all the time, indefinitely. So everyone pushing for consolidation, pushing for it now, I think you need to look at what our intent is so that you can see where we're coming from and why we're not just asking to, quote, kick the can down the road. I think it's important to distinguish that because otherwise it's difficult to get the support we need for these taxes when we say, well, we're just delaying the inevitable. So I think we all need to remember that when we are talking about this issue and remind ourselves that the goal is to keep both schools open, despite what anyone else thinks. That is our group's core goal. So I hope that the board also agrees to give us more time in the what's called delayed or in the consolidation, delay it, I quote, delay further than what's in the resolution so that we have more time to address this. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessie.
And our last speaker is Galen.
Yeah, just real quick, I too wanted to thank the board for taking the time to work on this resolution and making these changes quickly. And I just want to add to what some other people have said that I don't see any harm whatsoever in changing the language on the dates of consolidation to say no later than. So that feels like a good faith measure, that it's not sounding like no matter what, it's going to happen, but that, you know, if these things do not happen as planned or whatever the options may be, that we're saying no later than those dates so that we know that there are other options in place. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Galen. Penny, I noticed we had one more speaker, and I would hate for that person to not get to speak. Although if we do that, then I guess that opens it up for more people wanting to speak.
I stopped it at the one that you requested me to stop it at. So okay. I'm happy to advance them if you want me to.
I think we had a couple of people that got left out on previous items. So just in fairness.
They did. You guys give me a cutoff. I write that name down, and that's where I stop.
Let's go ahead and let Rob speak, and then that'll be the last speaker. Thank you.
All right, Rob, I am enabling your ability to talk. If you can unmute yourself, and you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Could you state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Heather Best, not Rob Best, but he's married to me, so it all works. I am a Forestville resident and an El Molino parent of just one child. So I don't have children coming into the district. I just have many years of involvement in the community, and my family does. And so I just kind of wanted to step in and reiterate a little bit of what Joanne and Gillian said. I really want to request a full CEQA for the sheer effect that this is going to have on all of our kids. It is almost inappropriate not to do it. I feel like we really need to stave off the consolidation so our kids and our community can have some time and our whole community can be involved. Even Ted's comments earlier, we've only been talking about this for a few months, just to quote him. So I feel like that's concerning. And I want to thank Linda Hopkins on this morning's Board of Supervisors meeting. I sat there. I want to thank you and the board. I felt Supervisor Gorin's heart in making her decision. I know it's difficult, and I appreciate the way you've defended and stood for the Western Sonoma County region and District 5. Jeannie, I'm just a little concerned about some of the verbiage this evening. There was a statement read about polite and appropriate behavior in a space where we're welcome and safe and things along those lines. And so I just, Jeannie, or Ms. Fernandez, when we made mention of this Spanish speaker and our interpreter, there was if we have Spanish speaking attendees on board, of course we have Spanish speaking attendees at this meeting because we are an agriculture community out here in El Molino. And I just feel like that's important to acknowledge and recognize for our full entire community. That's a factor and an issue in this consolidation topic. Angie, Lewis, thank you for caring about the budget, but also acknowledging there needs to be time to focus on everything. I think that Elmo is last on the list. I think Elmo has an amazing agricultural program that really does need to be recognized. And I think we do need to be West County strong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oops. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for our those comments. So let's wrap this up with any further board comments, questions, clarifications before we vote. Ted, I see you unmuted. You don't have to speak.
It's a very, very difficult subject. I don't want to say anything. I fear this might tie the hands of our staff and future board. And the last 5-6 comments, the public has a whole different expectation of what good Kelly's trying to do here. They want more years. They want more guarantees. And I can tell you, after 16 years of being a school board member, there's very few guarantees that a board can give people about a budget. 8 years ago, Jerry Brown was our governor, and he took money from schools. He put the state employees on furloughs, and hopefully that never happens again. I'm probably going to abstain on this for my future board members because I don't want to tie your hands if you have to do something drastic in the near future. And I don't want the public to get the wrong idea of a written guarantee. And I've read all the comments and stuff like that. People want a written guarantee. You're not going to close this. You're not going to open that. And there's only so much the school board can do. So those are my comments, but to the public, you have a wonderful school board here. The student reps and school board members are wonderful. They represent all the community interests. And as we say goodbye in the next couple of weeks, you should be proud and appreciative of all your school board members. So I'll shut up now.
Thank you, Ted. No problem. Kelly, go ahead.
Just a couple comments. So the net piece, I think that was probably a typo. I know we did this really quickly at the end of the day, and I'm assuming that probably it just got added in the one place and not in the other place. So can we make that consistent? Does that make sense? And then I do want to just state, I know there's been a lot of conversation, and I know that this is a sticking point. And thank you, Ted, for saying we're trying to do our best to, find a process that we all can meet in the middle and have a resolution that feels okay. I think, adding that number 4 for me kind of gets to that and later piece, because if we get more revenue in, then it would allow us to move forward longer. And I think for me, the way I read this, the ABC is more about our current budget. So number 2 is just about, this is the fiscal reality of our current budget and where we are based on what we know of the current numbers and the potential near current revenues that we might get from these taxes, because we know about those. The number 4, I feel like adding that helps to get to that and later piece. I don't know for me that we necessarily need to add that language, because it allows us, if there is, additional grants, to come in to consider that if it meets that criteria in number 3. If number 4 meets number 3, then we can move that forward. Or no, if number 4 meets it, then we don't even need number 3. Sorry, I'm getting confused. I'm just going to stop talking now. That was just my point. Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I hear what everyone's saying about the use of the word or later, or the 2 words or later up there in number 2. But that's why we added number 4, was that because it clears, it says timeline may be delayed in the event that the district's financial sustainability improves. And it doesn't give any date there. It just says that, in fact, if we get a net increase in the district's year-end balance by at least $750,000, then we could possibly extend things. So I think that kind of takes care of the word or the 2 words or later up in the other one, because that's talking, like Kelly said, about our current budget right now. And number 3 and 4 are talking about down the road. Am I right? Ed's not, yes. Jeff, am I right? Yes, thank you. Okay, just want to be sure. Okay, any other comments? Angie, any of our student board reps, any comments, questions? Yes, Jeannie.
So I just wanted to, I guess, try and express my point of view on Consolidation's quote inevitability, because that's, that phrase has been brought up quite a lot. I would like to point out that just in looking at the sheer numbers, if we were to do the consolidation as soon as possible, it does not provide a permanent solution. The increase, I guess the decrease in costs that come from consolidation is 1.2 million a year. So that is about the same as either of the taxes, based on the estimates. So if anything, I think it could exacerbate budget shortfalls. I know that we talk about losing programs, losing students, but losing a school could also mean losing students. So just putting that out there. So that's just my perspective. I totally understand why some people think it is going to happen. But I really think that if we all work together, the northernmost, westmost, southernmost communities of Forestville and Sebastopol and the teachers union and all of our staff, I think if we can all come together to first and foremost support these taxes and then work on finding creative solutions in the interim before we even get the results of the district unification study, I think that if nothing else, we will come out knowing that we did everything we could to provide the best education for our students in this district. So I would really love to come out of this and come into our parcel tax campaigns as a united front from all ends.
Thank you, Jeannie. Great words. Appreciate that. Any other further comments? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to just review what it is we're voting on. And we're voting on resolution number 11, November 2020, 2021, the resolution of the Board of Education of the West Sonoma County Union High School District regarding intention and timing of consolidation and relocating of district high schools and district office. I realize that we've made some minor changes, but I would like to get the two people, our motion maker and our second, to basically agree to amend their motion and their second to what we have changed that language to, which is including the word net. And I know that sounds minor, but I think we just want to be sure that we're clarifying it clearly to the public. So, and I can't remember, I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Oh, we didn't get a motion yet, Jeannie.
I thought we got a motion. No, we didn't make a motion?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do that now then. I thought we did. Okay. I was gonna. I'm so sorry. Okay, we didn't get a motion yet. So can I get a motion for resolution number 11, number 2020-2021?
With the addition of the word net.
With the addition of the word net, yes.
I'll make the motion.
All right. Kelly moves to make this motion. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we move forward with resolution number 11, November 2020, 2021, resolution of the Board of Education of the West Sonoma County Union High School District regarding intention and timing of consolidation and relocation of district high schools and district office. And with that, seeing no further discussion, I would like to call for the question. So with that, Angie Lewis.
Aye.
Diane Landry.
Aye.
Kelly Noe.
Aye.
Ted Walker.
No.
Jeannie Fernandez. Aye. Satori McCullough.
Aye.
Jeannie Broom. Jeannie Broom.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. So motion carries 4-1 with 2 student votes in favor. Okay, that's that one is in the books, as they say. Hold on, I got to get back to my. There it is. I lost my agenda. Hold on. Okay, so next, that really does conclude our meeting. Just a reminder, our next board meeting, regular board meeting, is December 9th. Will be our first interim budget report.
We have a special board meeting on Friday.
Oh, that's right. Excuse me. Very good. Thank you, Tony. We have a special board meeting. Some of you may wonder why we didn't discuss the parcel tax tonight. There is a regulation that we have to wait 10 days from the time we first announced that we were going to move forward with the parcel tax. We had to wait 10 days so we can then hold a public hearing. That 10 days, it puts us right at the day that the parcel tax language is due, which is Friday, December 4th. So we are having a special meeting at 9 a.m. on December 4th, Friday, so we can get that language ironed out and get it in somebody's hands to drive it to the Office of Elections. So 9
Can I
a.m.
ask a question about that meeting?
Yes.
Will you be wanting us to, I don't know how long that meeting's intended to go, will you be wanting us to live stream that to YouTube and coordinate translation? Because there's a lot of stuff that happens, and if it's only going to be like 10 or 15 minutes, I just was curious.
I don't know how long it'll go, Jenny. So
Okay.
I think we actually need to, yes, live stream it and have it available for everybody and anybody that wants to participate. Yeah.
Copy that.
Everybody agree?
Mhm.
Nod heads, thumbs up, whatever you want to do.
What time again?
Our student rep, sorry, Jeannie, you go ahead.
9 a.m. And if you guys need an excuse to get out of your class, please reach out to Tony and Tony can get you one. Okay? Because yes, we would like you there if you can be there. Good, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Tony, for reminding me we had that meeting. And then our next regular board meeting, like I said, is December 9th. Our regular time, 6 p.m. And we will have the first interim budget report, which will always be so informational. And then we have the first reading of our board meeting calendar that night as well. I would like to ask if our 2 new board members are on this Zoom call to please have your calendars ready and available that night so you can look at your calendars too, because we will then approve that calendar at our December 16th meeting. And then our next meeting is we're going to have also some first reading of board policy and admin regulations with regards to uniform public construction cost accounting. And I think we're also going to try to catch up on our CSBA updates. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, CSBA policy updates. Good time to do it, I think, because we don't have a lot on that agenda. And then our reorganization meeting of the board is December 16th. We will swear in our newly elected trustees. We will say farewell to Ted and Diane. And then we will also reorganize our board. And then we will also have a second reading of those board policies and of the calendar. Did I miss anything, anybody? Okay. All right. So we will see you all bright and early Friday morning. And thank you all so very much for your time. And I appreciate everyone and all of the comments made by the public tonight. Thank you, Mariana, for your help and your support tonight. Very much appreciated. Thank you all. Good night.
All right.
Hey, Tony.
Mariana, I just sent you a chat.
I have a conflict on Friday, sort of, so I'll let Tony know, but I might have to take some of the meeting from the car, Jenny, but I should be okay.
Yeah, you can join by phone if you need to.
But I
no
just
video.
have the video.